Have you ever noticed that you can speak your target language quite well when you're alone, but as soon as another person joins the conversation, everything falls apart? You forget words, you answer more slowly, you lose your train of thoughts. It feels like your language ability suddenly disappeared, but it probably didn't. Conversation is simply a much harder task for your brain. Hi, I'm Polly. I'm a language coach and I explain how language learning actually works. I recently read a really interesting paper. It looks at conversation from a completely different perspective. Instead of asking how we produce language, they ask what does the brain actually have to control during a conversation? The answer is much more than we usually think. The first challenge is that your brain is dealing with two voices at once. It isn't only producing your own speech, it's also monitoring the other person's speech, separating it from your own, and constantly checking whether the conversation is going the way you expect. The second challenge is timing. Speaking takes time to plan, but conversations move surprisingly quickly. If you waited until someone completely finished speaking before you even started preparing your answer, every conversation would be full of long, awkward silences. So your brain often starts planning before the other person has finished, but that's risky. If you plan too late, your answer comes out slowly. If you plan too early, the other person might finish with something you weren't expecting. And suddenly the brilliant sentence you prepared no longer makes sense. And then there is this third challenge. Conversations are unpredictable. The other person might misunderstand you, interrupt you, change the topic, or ask a question you weren't expecting. So your brain isn't just building sentences, it is constantly updating what you're trying to achieve in the conversation. And that's the main idea of the paper. A conversation isn't simply a monologue with another person standing next to you. It's a coordination task. You are listening, planning, monitoring, adapting, and taking turns almost simultaneously. And I think that's a really useful way to think about language learning. If all you practice is talking to yourself, you're mostly training production. Real conversations also require timing, reacting, adapting, and coordinating with another person. So if you speak much better alone than you do with another person, don't immediately conclude that your language level is bad. You are simply doing a much more complex task. I'm Polly and I share research like this to explain not just how to learn languages, but why your brain behaves the way it does. Follow if you'd like more research-based explanations that actually help you become a better language learner.